Source has a specific recipe for how eternal life, infinite life can manifest. And the specific recipe, the specific coding that goes out there can be tinkered with in the outer outpicturing realities. Now, there's nothing morally wrong with it. The only issue is that on the inhale, inherently, anything finite is going to have less quanta, less energy, less potential than infinite frequencies. So whatever is inhaled back into source, whatever doesn't hold the same encryption, the same recipe, cannot be inhaled back into source in one piece. It can be inhaled back into source in a different form of consciousness. The only thing that's lost is your memory of your individuation. So the only thing that you're potentially losing is the memory of who you are. But then there are other ways to remember you, and then source can recreate you in other ways. We're not going into that. The relevant bit is that whatever is not brought back into source on the inhale, on a cosmic inhale or a cellular inhale, gets trapped in your field, in your biofield. I brought up the example of a glitter bubble cloud that just imagine pure nothingness. That's what source is. And then from an infinitely small point, a source creation point, there's a 360 bubble circular spherical cloud of electromagnetic sparks, glitter sparks. That's your first outpicturing. That's your first creation. That's your first cosmic exhale. And on the next inhale should be a perfect return to source. All of your little glitter bits are going back into nothingness. And then on the next exhale, they would come back out. Now, what's happening now is that on every inhale, a couple sparks stay outside in the outer creation domains, in the outer field. And they create energetic debris in your biofield. Keylontic science calls it karmic miasmic imprint. Those little energetic debris bits, they are littering up, literally, they're littering up your biofield. Now, this existence is a holographic reality. What you see here is a light projection. If you have anything in your field that is just free floating around, they are in the way of light itself. They refract light. So the more shit you have, the more stuff you have in your biofield, in your electromagnetic biofield, the more distortions, light distortions you will have in your field, in your experience. Your field is a conscious living being. Your body doesn't end here. This is just your elemental body. We are seeing our elements. Your other dimensional bodies exist way beyond your physical body. So stuff can exist in your biofield far, far away from your physical body, and that still belongs to you, that's still energetically connected to you. Now, the amount of time that we are exchanging energy fields with others, not just through touch, not just through physical closeness, but through sound, through thoughts, through emotions, you can literally exchange energy and you can merge biofields with anyone, any being, anywhere in space, time, on the other side of the planet, on the other side of the galaxy. You just have to find a harmonic resonance between the two of you, establish connection, and then your two biofields can start interacting with each other. Now, what are emotions? Where are they coming from? How come that you know better, but for some reason you just don't do better? How come that your relationships have all this tumultuous energy? And how come that even within your own field, certain stuff keeps coming up that you just don't know how to handle, you just don't know what to deal with it? I really, really had to have a mindset shift to understand just how compromised this reality is that we're living in. You can use emotionally very charged words. My favorite one is that it's a prison planet. It really is. And your body is pretty much an energetic prison. But those are very emotionally charged words. So if we take it down to a purely physics level, is a lot of your body consciousness does not remember what eternity feels like, what eternal life feels like. That's just a compromise in your conscious sentient awareness of what you're capable of. And once you start setting limitations, once the fear of death enters your consciousness, just imagine that after a while, you find less and less meaning in anything. Why bother? Why care? If the end is going to be annihilation. So you start doing more and more intrusive things. You start corrupting yourself and others more and more, deeper and deeper. Now here we are at the final decades and centuries of a 950 billion year history. The first conflict in this 15-dimensional time matrix dates back to 950 billion years ago. And there are eternal life races who wanted to help the forms of consciousness who simply did not remember what it feels like to be part of eternal life creation. And they've been incredibly patient, and they've given many, many chances, many, many opportunities to beings who again and again and again consciously chose to keep corrupting this reality. So when we try to, on a very personal level, when we try to justify things, it's like, yeah, but there is some truth to it that love is painful and that life is suffering and that you cannot there's always some bad in the good, that you cannot exist without polarity. There is truth to it, isn't it? Yes, within these confines, there is a lot of truth to it. When you make a very slight shift in your perception, in your sense of consciousness, and you come from a sense of source loves you, it cannot give anything else to you but eternity. That's its inherent nature. Anything that tries to take that eternity away is a different form of origin. It was created within the electromagnetic debris, within the outer domains of creation, within the light body. And none of those beings have ever experienced a full-on return to source because they're biologically incapable of doing so. And the same way as we can talk about massive consciousness fields, consciousness families of, say, elementals, you can talk about entire race lines who have not experienced at one-ment with source. It's like you are constantly in stress. You never experience peace, relief, joy, happiness. You live an entire life in stress. It takes a toll on your psyche. It takes a toll on your physicality. And the parts of you literally embedded in your biology are energetic receivers for the broadcast information that is broadcasting those fear scripts, anger scripts, hatred scripts right into everybody's biofield. So energetically, the best thing that we can do is regenerate our own body so that we wouldn't have any receivers for those messages anymore. Now, when anybody tries to do things like past life healing, inner child healing, shadow work, all that business, and I wrote a book on shadow integration because I do these kind of things that I name shit because I want to change the way we perceive those things, because usually shadow work entails going deep into the dark night of the soul and immersing yourself in the negativity in order for you to clear it. Now that is that's a stage, that's a mirroring stage when it's a psychological warfare technique. When you empathize, you feign empathy with the bad, but you're still feeding the bad. That empathy level is not capable of solving the issue. Empathy means feeling as. Compassion is feeling with. Empathy is that if you break your leg, I'm going to break my leg just so I get to feel exactly the way you are feeling. None of us is getting any help. None of us is getting any better. We're just two broken people. Compassion looks at your situation, understands, grasps where you're coming from, and provides an extra additional amount of energy so that you get to be surrounded by more than what you are, and you can grow into that more state. So you get to literally expand out of those contracted states of fear, anger, sadness, broken legs. It was a massive help for me to understand that every single time something like that finds me, fear, doubt, loneliness, scarcity, any of those emotions, instead of engaging with it, the best thing that I can do is find an expanded version of myself, a larger, bigger, more relaxed sense of self, and gradually grow into that self so that I would internally transmute those energies. I would add, literally, if you imagine yourself as a scared animal or a very scared child inside you, the best way to help them is not to tell them what's wrong with you. If you are at the bottom of a pit and somebody is throwing you a rope and they are like, I'm sure you've got enough energy to climb up and pull yourself up, honey. Here's a rope. That's how you climb up, idiot. That's what we're doing when we're giving advice. This is what you should be doing. This is how you should sort out your life. It's not emotionally helpful. Instead, we can get that rope down, climb down, embrace that little broken being, get back up together so that we have all become more. It's a win-win-win situation for all of us. That's how we heal any traumatic imprint, that we don't annihilate, we don't get angry at it, that fuck, I'm feeling broken again. This has come back again and again. I thought that we've solved this already. Jesus, not again. Those are not helpful. If you find empathy, even within yourself, yes, this is happening, this is how I'm feeling, and expanded that, but at the same time, I know that those feelings are not inherently mine. I did not generate any of those feelings. Then you give yourself an expanded sense of self, how you can grow without losing anything. It is like an angry, hurt, barking dog that is ready to bite because you've been feeding that emotion, or you've been surrounding that emotion or issue or physical pain or anything. I'm going to call it pain because that's the quickest. You have been treating that pain with so much disrespect, so much unkindness. You've been trying to suppress, neglect, circumvent that pain so much. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't have this problem. What is wrong with me for feeling this pain? That pain has a consciousness. If you keep beating that dog, it will keep biting you. So first, we have to unguard and you don't go into a fight armed. If you have to arm yourself, it means that you can be hurt. You don't go into a fight instigating that fight because it means that you want to fight. You can just stand there, stand your ground, rooted in source, connected to source, and just be there as long as it takes. And as soon as that dog stops barking at you, now you can establish a relationship. Now you have a base for healing. Anything that, when you try to patch something, when you put a Band-Aid on a festering wound, just because you can't see the surface of it, it doesn't mean that the very bottom is not getting infested. That's what we've been doing frequency-wise. That's why you run into the same people with different faces. That's why you keep repeating addictive cycles. That's why we keep running into the same trigger points, because we don't address the very cause of the issue. And the very cause of the issue is that they're not originating from source. So when you find your connection to source first and you communicate with your pain from that standpoint, that's what's going to bring you the true healing, the absolute healing, because source is coming from such a sense of peace, safety, love, absolute grandiose giving. Source doesn't take anything because it doesn't need anything. And that's what your pain is looking for. Someone who's just willing to give instead of taking. If it needs a lot of time, it needs a lot of time. And source would give it 950 billion years. Honey, if that's how long you take, that's how long you take. I'm here. I stand my ground. You can trust me.